Hej alle sammen, og velkommen til det her online event, hvor vi er blevet så heldige, at Gudkendt har lovet os, at vi kan få lov til at tale med Max Seeck, som en af Finlands mest populære forfattere. Han er forfatter til den her trilogi, hvor vi møder Jessica. Interviewet kommer til at foregå på engelsk, for jeg kan ikke snakke finsk. I kan sikkert heller ikke forstå finsk, og Max kan ikke tale dansk, så det bliver en engelsk omgang. Alle jer, der ser med nu, har også mulighed for at vinde en tur til Helsinki, hvor den her krimi foregår. Det er en tur for 2 med flybilletter og hotel betalt. Det er kommet i stand med forlaget Gudkendt, som er dem, der udgiver Max's bøger her i Danmark. Hvis man ud over det lod, man har med i puljen ved bare at være her, har lyst til at få et lod mere i, så kan man skrive en kommentar eller et spørgsmål i chatten, og så er det dobbelt op på chance. Når vi er ved vejs ende i den her lille talk med Max, så kommer vi til at trække en tilfældig vinder, og vinderen har så lige 30 sekunders tid til at skrive en kommentar i chatten, at man stadigvæk er her, og så er rejsen din, og så er du simpelthen blevet kontaktet efterfølgende. Så velkommen til igen, og på vegne af Gudkendt, Mofibo og Max, så vil jeg gerne sige tak, fordi I er med. And now, in the best Eurovision style, we are going to call from Copenhagen to Finland. Welcome, Max. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Copenhagen. I can hear you. So thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be on board.
Of course. Thank you for being here. To the few people who might not know you, besides being one of Finland's most famous and loved authors, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 37 years old. I have 2 kids, and I've been writing full time for 8 years now. So it's been a while. I've been a full-time writer so long that I don't even know anymore what I used to be, I think. But maybe we can discuss more that later. But yeah, again, so nice to be here, and I hope you find my books and like them, and let's see how it goes.
And you live in Finland. You have a beautiful view behind you. Do you live in Helsinki, or where do you live in Finland?
Yeah, I live. I don't know how well you know if any one of you ever been to Helsinki, but I basically live just next to the next city. There's basically 3 cities kind of melt to each other, like just next to each other. So I live in Espoo, which is basically a bit more easy suburb. So we moved here 3 years ago from the city center, or 4 years ago when we started having kids. We have been liking so far. It's much more calm place.
So there's peace and quiet for your writing and for your kids to go outside and play.
Well, that's it's funny. I still go to the city to my office. So I actually need some people around me just to make the job easier for me. I very seldom write at home here in peace. Maybe when maybe later, but so far I've been always doing at my office.
And why don't write at home? Is it because you need the inspiration from the city, or is it because the kids and the wife disturb you, or why don't write at home?
I think, yeah, that's all. Everything you just mentioned is actually a good reason. But for me, I think it's because I'm a full-time writer, and I usually write from 9 to 5. So I kind of needed a place to go and do my job. And then I can come home, and usually I might have some meetings later, and I have these amazing, chances to talk to guys like this. But usually I write during that 9 to 5, which sounds kind of boring, right? Not very artistic, but
no,
that's how I do it.
It doesn't sound very artistic. Can you be creative on command, like being from 9 to 5, being creative, or do you sometimes get up in the night and find a little whiskey and then sit at your desk at home writing?
Maybe that will come, but so far it's not like I can force myself every day to be artistic or creative, but there's always something you can do. And when I go to work and try writing, and if it doesn't flow, then I can always do some research or read something that inspires, or interview some like police officers or doctors, do something like research for the work and use it later. And there has been weeks that I haven't been able to write anything. I've just been researching or doing something else that has something to do with the book.
And for how long have this new book been on the way? Does it take a month, a year, or 2 years to write a book like this?
Well, basically, I write in 7 months, so from 0 to 100, and that's full time. I only think about the book, and I'm always writing like the 9 to 5 kind of basis. It takes 7 months, and I mean, I publish 1 book a year, and my 7th book just came out, and some people wonder if it's fast. I mean, if I would need more time, but I think precisely because this is my profession and my passion, and I don't do anything else currently. I think it's a sufficient amount of time. I mean, 7 months is a long time. Yeah. And I don't think the book would be better if I used extra 5 months to finish it.
And now you're telling us that you're doing this full time, but there was a time before you got to be a writer, and you did sales and marketing. But how did the writing start?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I've always wanted to write and make movies and this kind of creative storytelling, basically. And I failed to get into a film school when I was like 19 or 20, and I kind of thought that this was it. If they don't want me, then I don't have the talent. And it took so many years. I studied finance and marketing, and I worked in a bank, and I worked in a marketing agency, and I did a lot of sales and coaching and consulting, and it was kind of, I mean, it was okay, but at the same time, I really needed to do something more creative. So 2013, I kind of decided, like 9 years ago, I kind of decided that now I'm going to write a book, and let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, I can always keep on working my day job. But then it turned out it was, in Finland, it sold really well, and I got the second contract right away. And later I have these international, that my books were translated to many languages. So that kind of, it was easy for me then to stop doing the work I don't like and start doing the work I like full time. Yeah. I'm lucky in that sense, I know,
And we are lucky to get your stories, and you are a bit modest. It's have been sold to 40 countries already, your books, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I have read somewhere that you enjoy reading the Nordic crime stories. What can we do? What is it that we do in Scandinavia that is so successful when it comes to crime stories?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a theory. I don't know if it's a really good one, if it makes any sense. But I think partly because we are, living in a pretty cold and dark countries where there are long winters, and at the same time the countries are quite safe. I mean, it's we have crime, but we don't have like as much crime as in Rio de Janeiro, or the big cities in the US, where you actually have to be afraid when you go out. And I think partly because of that, I mean, the same reason we go to the theme park or horror movie. We want to feel and we want to see something else than our everyday life. And at the same time, precisely the darkness and the cold weather, it's very atmospheric. I think, you can always read Agatha Christie or Hercule Poirot going on Bahamian Island, somewhere solving a mystery. You have that, but I still think that it kind of flourishes in this darkness and cold weather, and when there's dark outside and you go and something bad happens.
Yeah,
I don't know if it makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I think the dark is always a bit scary. Are you 7th month when you're writing? Is that in the winter half of the year or in the summer half of the year?
Well, it's both basically. It's January to or December to June, so it's kind of both. But it's definitely good.
You start in the dark and go to the light.
Yes, exactly. There's hope in this. So I never thought about it this way, but yeah, you were right. Yeah, I start in the dark and go towards the better place.
Yeah. And when you listen to the story, you mentioned a Danish philosopher called Søren Kierkegaard. Do you know anything about Denmark at all? Do you have any like favorite Danish authors, or do you know anything about Denmark as a country?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been to Copenhagen, I think 3 times. I really love it. And you know, it's like what mostly always comes to my mind when we're talking about Denmark is the movies and the actors and people like Viggo Mortensen and Mads Mikkelsen. And I just saw the movie called Druk, I think it is. Like it won the Oscar for foreign film. It was really amazing, and I think the Danish people are just perfect in making movies. And you know, like many steps ahead of us Finns what comes to great movies, I think, so far. And you know, Sarah Bladel, how do you pronounce the name? Bladel?
Yeah, Sarah Bladel.
Yeah, sorry?
Bladel.
Okay, well. But yeah, I really love her novels. H.P. Andersen is someone I you know, it's obviously one of the greatest ever. You know, those are the fairy tales I'm reading to my kids, and so I think, you know, you have so much culture, so much, you know, like you have succeeded in so many ways what comes to Danish people and going abroad, and it's a really amazing country cultural wise, and you know, in other aspects as well, obviously. And so I think I know something about Denmark, not enough, but something.
It was impressive. I think you could name a lot of names. But you're also telling us that we are good with movies in Denmark. I read that you are working on some screenplays too. Is the dream for you like winning an Oscar also at some point, or is the movies like just an extension of the book work you're doing?
Well, it's not really extension, because like I told you, making movies has always been a big dream, and even when I was younger. So I'm writing the books, and then basically like a counterbalance for myself. I was writing and co-directing a movie that will premiere in Finland in February in theaters. And we have a Danish distributor, like a Danish company distributing and selling our film abroad, and it's been really nice so far. Really good collaboration, and again, I mean, Danish company knows how to sell movies abroad. It's impressive. But yeah, the movie is ready actually, and but it will premiere in Finland in 5 months. No, 5 months. Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that in Denmark. And I'm just reminding the viewers that you can write questions in the chat, and Max have promised to answer some of them at the end of this interview. But now, Max, we talked about you. We talked about the future of you winning an Oscar. And now we are going to talk about this bad boy. It's the Jessica Niemeyer series, and in Finnish it's called Kauna.
Yeah.
Maybe I tried.
Kauna. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's grudge. So
yeah. In English, the last grudge, as you almost mentioned, and in Danish, Sætterborg-sagen. And you can listen to it now, and I have done that. It's really good. It's a bit scary to do right now. I have been running up from my basement where I parked my bike because I was scared when I got home listening to your book. But what kind of crime story can the audience expect when they're listening to this Jessica series?
Well, I mean, the fourth one is just came out in Finland, and this is the third one, like Matt said. And I think the whole series is the first one is the Heksenjakt. What is it called in Denmark? Heksenjakt.
It's called,
I think the first one. Oh, then Trofaste läsare. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's basically like a big horror story. I think I was really scared of the book myself, because I found it that was just very scary. And it was not a very traditional whodunit novel, like a crime novel. But at the same time, I was writing the second and this Zetterborg saga, and these two, particularly this third book, is actually a quite traditional crime mystery novel. So you have all the ingredients, you have the murder, and then you just keep wondering who did it, and you can try guessing, but I bet you can't. And at the same time, what the book really is about Jessica Niemi, the main female protagonist, who is suffering from mental illness. So she's actually having this really strange and kind of scary mental state that where she keeps having hallucinations. But at the same time, she kind of gets the hints and gets some ideas from her dead mother who she sees in places. So it is scary and disturbing, but at the same time, there's not much violence in a way that it would be too. I think it's not like too scary in a disgusting way, because I don't really prefer too much violence myself. It's more like psychological suspense, and people have liked it. I think just because of it's not too violent. So yes, recommendation.
And we meet Jessica when she's at a leave of absence. What state of mind is she in when we meet her in the third book?
Well, I mean, she doesn't have a really easy life. She's definitely struggling, and there's this kind of turning point in her life that she's being like this. She's been having these delusions for a long time, and now something is changing. So I think it's a really personal place, like a very personal book, and I really got to know her while writing. And every book there's something new, like a new twist for her, like who she is and why she does what she does. So I think this book is definitely, you don't have to read the previous ones. I think it works individually as well. So
I agree.
She's in a bad place.
Yeah, I agree. You can read this one even if you haven't read the two others. You said you really got to know her in this one. Is it you that decide what she does, or is she a character inside of you that decides herself?
Oh yeah. Luckily, it's me. So I don't have the same problems, mental illness that she does. Maybe, I don't know. I hope not. So it's me. But at the same time, it's not very easy to always to know what she does and what she should do next, and if she will live or if she will die. I mean, it's always kind of, that's my responsibility and power to decide. So it's really interesting. Yeah, but there's the fourth book, so I can spoil you that she will live this one, but let's see what happens in the future.
Let's see what happens. In the book, you also mention a lot of modern reference, like the movie The Joker and the actor Jonah Hill. Is it important to you when you write these stories that they are also modern and a picture of the time that you have written them in?
Oh yeah, I think so. And I usually include stuff like movies and characters and actors and phenomenons, what I like myself and what I'm interested in, or what I just saw. And just like you said, I think because there has been these crime novels for 100 years already, so I think it's always nice to have like a bit of social media and a bit of references to something that's very topical. We can shortly discuss the pandemics, not very long, don't worry, but just 2 sentences or something that's going on. If I would write one now, I could mention that, you know, Queen Elizabeth has passed away, something that anchors us to the modern place and time, even though the story could take place anytime, basically. So,
and you also reference a lot of real historic events, the murder of Olof Palme, and when, funny enough, now you mentioned Queen Elizabeth, when a guy called Michael broke into Buckingham Palace and went to Queen Elizabeth's bedroom. Is this because you're like an history nerd who wants to educate us during your reading, or is this just because you have researched for the book?
Oh yeah, it's basically research. Many of the things I mentioned are something that I have researched for the book, or that come across somewhere when I browse online, and then I read about them. For the example you mentioned about the guy climbing to the Queen's window to the Buckingham Palace, I never heard of it before I actually started writing. So I think, and this is why writing a book is very, I mean, it teaches you as well. So you learn a lot, and for every book I have been researching a lot, you know, not only these fun little facts, but like police work and doctors and lawyers and how they work, and so basically everything you see and think, oh wow, this I didn't know before, probably I didn't know either before I started writing. So I think it's the beauty of it. So we can learn together, basically.
Yeah. And you learn a lot when you're reading your books, both about the historic themes, the events here, and you also reference some statistics about how many police officers in Finland have tried to firing their arms when on duty and stuff like that. So
yeah.
really educating too. I have a lot of questions written down that we can't make, but before we go to the question from the audience, I have to ask you, because we talk so much about the movies, that the rights to making your books on the big screen have already been sold. So we can look forward to that. Do you know who is going to play Jessica and Yusuf? Or do you have any big Hollywood stars in mind being perfect for those roles?
Well, I don't know. They haven't been named yet, but I have always thought about Jessica Biel being a really good lead. I'm Jessica.
Yeah.
And you know, for instance, Yusuf is a bit more difficult. I think he should be from Finland, really, and there are some really good ones that could portray him. But maybe a clearer one would be Jessica Biel as the main character for this one. And I really hope that we get some news soon on who's going to play who, and that the show is actually coming out.
We have now sent it to the universe to get you Jessica Biel to play.
Yes, if Jessica hears this, then sign up.
Yeah. And now we have a question from Ida Larsen in Denmark. She's asking you, where do you get your inspiration for this series?
I'm always been really interested in like you know, the troubled mind. If I know some people who suffer from schizophrenia, and it's nothing to, I mean, it's not fun, but at the same time, I think it's interesting, and I think it's definitely important that we are able to write about issues like this and how it affects. And many things you read about Jessica here is actually quite accurate how it might look when you are suffering from this illness. So definitely this whole unfortunate illness has brought a lot of inspiration. I think it sounds bad, it sounds evil, but I think it's definitely because it's the main character. So and everything basically is built around her mental state. So that's very inspiring to me, even though it's terrible.
And the inspiration, is that from having it in your personal life, or is this from researching, or where do you get the knowledge about this disease from?
Well, I mean, I do know some people. I have like a family friend, in like two cases in the same family, and I know quite a lot. I've heard quite a lot. I've seen quite a lot. At the same time, I can always read more, and I have this psychiatrist expert which I have talked to. So even though I don't know about the illness myself, because I don't have it, fortunately, I have studied it quite a lot. So I think I know something about it. And the thing is that I don't really have to be an expert. All I have to do is just to make it feel like it's real.
Perfect. And then Camilla is asking you, how do you get in the mind of a female detective?
Well, I mean, it's a really good question, right? I wrote a series before this series that was mostly sold only in Finland. It was successful in Finland, but we didn't have this like international success with it. And it was a male, like former soldier, very masculine guy. And I think I just wanted to create someone very different. I wanted a new character, and obviously it kind of had to be a woman, so she could be very different from my previous one. And then I thought, like, am I able to write a female character, like a main character? And then I talked to some women, my wife and my editor is a female, and I kind of figured out that there is not much difference. I mean, obviously some small things, but if you have a female detective and a male detective, you know, they basically approach the case in the same way. And I kind of I think it's interesting and rewarding just to write a character without thinking about if she's a male or female, and it kind of works because we're all different, and she doesn't have to have these like cliche what women think or what men think, or it kind of has worked out pretty nicely. And my editor always
Ja.
Jamen, vi var nødt til at skyde en kalkulationsprose i, hvis vi skulle have lavet det.
And then someone unmuted their phone. We are back on track here.
Maybe they joined the discussion.
Yeah. Lila is asking you, do you have any hints or tips for those of us who would like to be a writer?
Oh yes, yeah. This is. I always say that remember to write a lot, because I never went to any class, and most of the people who write, like our writers, haven't. I don't mean it's a nonsense or it's bad to have a go to a writer's class or something. But I think what people, when I want to write, what they most often fail to do is write. It sounds kind of crazy, but I just had this discussion like last month with my friend. He asked the same question. He wants to write. What should I do? And I asked, have you ever written anything? Not yet, but I like to. So I mean, that's the way you learn and get better, when you just take your laptop and start. And it can take a year or two, but you have to start. And eventually, if you have a book, like if you have a full manuscript, then you can always send it to the publishing house and try your luck. But so many people have not started, which is a shame, because a lot of people want to write, and they should. It's easy and it's cheap just to write. You don't need €1 million budget.
How many stories did you write before a publisher house took you in?
Well, I wrote my first one like evenings and nights for 2 years or 2.5 years. Like I had some breaks. So yeah, and when I sent it, I got accepted. Tammi accepted me or gave me a contract, but the book wasn't ready. I thought it's ready, but then my editor came in, and then we started actually working on the book. And that's also what many people don't know, because they're not in the industry, that books only ready when it's getting printed, and before that there's a lot that has to be worked on, and their editors will come along and help you, and so it doesn't have to be perfect when you send it. Usually it's not perfect.
So just get started writing. That's the best way of being an author.
Yeah, that's the only way.
The only way. One last question before we are going to end this up. If you should write, Lisa is asking, if you should write something else than a crime novel, what would you like to write?
Also a very good question, because I have thought about writing a children's book maybe. But it feels very difficult, because you could think that children are easy audience. You just need some nice pictures, but I think they're the most difficult audience there is, and at least when I try to tell stories to my kids, it's like, well, that. So children's book would be really nice.
With children, you always get their honest opinion right away.
Yes, yeah. On every matter, you always get it. So yeah, it's kind of harsh.
Yeah. Max, time flies by really quickly when you have fun. Before I'm going to end this up in Danish, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us all the way from Finland. It has been a big pleasure. I will recommend everybody who's watches to listen to this on our service, Mofibo, or read it when Goodkin had printed it so nicely. So Max, before ending in Danish, thank you so much. Hope you have a lovely day in Finland.
Great, thank you so much for having me. And it's funny, actually, I understand quite a lot of when you speak Danish, because I do some Swedish, so it's not very different.
It's not very different.
Sounds
bye
similar.
To Max. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Og så afslutter vi det her på dansk, og tak for alle jeres spørgsmål. Nu kommer det til at være sådan, at vi trækker en vinder, og den vinder har så lige 30 sekunder til at skrive i chatten en kommentar, om man er her. Hvis det ikke er sket inden 30 sekunder, så går vi videre til den næste vinder på listen. Så jeg kigger herover på mine gode kollegaer, der holder øje med skærmen. Vinderen, hvis vinderen stadigvæk er her, hedder Elin K. Grav. Elin K. Grav, hvis du er der, så må du meget gerne skrive en ting i kommentarfeltet, og så venter vi og ser, om der er nogen, der siger noget her. Og indtil da, så kan jeg sige, at I selvfølgelig kan finde Max's bog, både udgivet af Goodkind, som er vores gode samarbejdspartner på det her event, og hos Mofibo. Der bliver holdt godt øje hos 3 kollegaer her, og hvis Elin ikke er her endnu, så er det jo den næste vinder, vi skal have fat i. Elin har lige 10 sekunder mere, og lad os se, om hun er der. Ja. Der bliver rystet på hovedet. Vi tror ikke på det. Så gælder det om at være klar derude. Vi går videre til næste vinder, som er her, som hedder Gert Milan Petersen. Gert Milan Petersen, kan vi få dig? Yes! Aldrig har jeg set nogen skrive et så hurtigt yes. Ved du hvad, Gert? Tillykke med det. Du bliver kontaktet af os efterfølgende på mail, det kan jeg love dig for. Det bliver senere i dag. Stort tillykke til Gert. Igen, tusind tak til Goodkind for at være med til at lave det her event. Tak til Max, fordi han havde lyst til at være med. Og tak til alle jer, fordi I så med. Jeg håber, vi ses igen en anden gang.